Virgo 19, the swimming race. There was a time, of course, when we didn't need competitions to develop excellence long ago, because if we weren't excellent, we died off. But now we do need a stimulus to trigger us into doing the best we can. And the way in which that occurs, how we do our best, has a lot to do, in fact, it's probably all to do with what goes on in the mind. If the mind is focused, then we optimize our ability. If it is focused on something that is dangerous or competitive or something where we feel we've lost unless we bring our best out, then we bring our best out. And therefore, the swimming race indicates this sense we have of challenging ourselves in order to do better than we've done before and to do our best. For the lesser individual, competition is a great stimulus, and we put ourselves into that frame when we're kids in order to develop qualities that perhaps we didn't even know were there. And we stay with that until such time as competition just isn't enough. It's not meaningful to win because maybe the competition just isn't up to scratch. You know, we're better than anyone that comes along already. Or maybe we realize that there's a further development possibility, and that is that we compete with ourselves. We struggle to emulate a better person. Now, this process of emulation or copying or following in the footsteps of a master is tried and tested throughout history. It is thought very clearly in Sufism that progression requires guidance. We can't do it alone. And this isn't reading books written by clever people or wise people. This is guidance. Some guide a person who meets you face to face and says, yes, that's good, you could do a bit better though, or no, that's not very good, try it this way. It is feedback tailor-made to your own being from somebody who's actually walked the path that you're walking a little bit before you. And it's better for that guide not to be super bright compared to you, not sort of a long, long way in advance of you. A few steps is better than a long way. And that's because the guide still has interest in you. If there's a big difference between your teacher and yourself, then the teacher's got no real motivation. It's just like, it's no challenge for the teacher because you're just learning very simple things that the teacher has taught many times before. So the teacher's interest in the process is a part of it all. Now, it's not necessary in this particular case to find a teacher. What we're talking about here is emulation, or in other words, finding a role model. And you don't even have to meet that person, because the thing about a role model is that it's actually all in your imagination. You project your best ideas onto someone, and you just imagine, you pretend, you think, you believe that they've got those qualities. And, you know, sometimes they have, sometimes they haven't. It doesn't matter, because you're using that role model as a cauldron, in a sense, a shaping vessel for your own projections. They may feed back something to you, but if you don't meet them, then they won't. Your own disappointments, your own achievements, your own trial and error processes really is the best feedback we need to use here. There's a lot of social pressure for us to conform to the lowest common denominator, in other words, mediocrity. We're encouraged at school to pass exams in what is called knowledge, which isn't knowledge, it's propaganda. We're told things at school and we're supposed to regurgitate them in a parrot-like fashion, and then we get pats on the head in terms of university placements and so on. And it's only when you get to university that you're allowed to think for yourself. And then if you don't think the same way as your potential employer wants you to think, then that's one way of getting rid of the people that will not conform to society's requirements. So this pressure for us not to be who we could be is incredibly strong, and it's prevalent, and it begins at a very early age, even before we ever go to school. So what we're trying to do in this example is to move beyond that conditioning for us to be mediocre. And the way to do that is to aspire to excellence. So we're trying to break away from the prisons that we've been having built for us by society and then constructed for ourselves because we've been brainwashed into thinking that's the way forward. That the measurement of success is in houses and money and prestige and things like that. We've been conditioned to think that that is success, which of course from the esoteric point of view is exactly wrong. That is where you fail, by conforming to the track that leads you to society's rewards. So what we're doing here is trying to find a role model of somebody who is not really approved of by society, somebody who's broken away, somebody who does not toe the party line. Because if we choose to find a role model who is a part of society's way of being, then we just get caught up. That will never produce personal excellence. To correct myself, it will produce aspects, facets of our personality which develop into excellence. We can be masters at something which society approves of. And yeah, certain people like doctors and dentists and so on, they do a very good job. However, even those tend to prescribe drugs that the pharmaceutical companies encourage them to sell. So even the professionals who have reached the level of mastery may not have reached the level of personal excellence, because personal excellence is only really achieved when we're free. We're free of conditioning. We're talking about the ability that we might develop to ensoul our behavior, to act with this alignment that we're in touch with the soul. That's the experience that you might have achieved when you're in the zone, as we like to call it sometimes. And it is understood, I think, within competitive sports that sometimes you can actually break through. I remember I did once, maybe in my pathetic rugby career, I actually got into the zone, and it was magnificent. And it was because I had no time to think, and I had to do what I was trained to do. And I did it within the context of a team and a team effort and a mutual goal. And I just caught the ball and did the necessary. And I was lost myself. And that was the most supreme expression of my personal excellence in that field of sport. And, totally forgotten by everybody but me. But the thing that is indicated here is that we can take that idea of doing your very best indeed in a different field. It doesn't have to be sport. It doesn't have to be competitive. It has to be somehow or other. If we don't hold focus, for example in danger, for example in extreme self-discipline, if we don't hold ourselves in focus, then we will lose focus. And if we lose focus, then we'll be blown around, blown about in the winds of the pressure of society and personal involvements and so on. We lose the edge. We lose the special frontier of excellence that we need to develop excellence. So that's what happens if we fail to develop focus on something demanding, and it has to be a little bit different from what we've done before, a little bit more challenging than we've ever achieved before. And once you've done it once, that's it. You can't do that again because you know how to do that. So once you've learned something, you've got to learn something else. And once you learn that, you've got to learn something else. And this learning process is learning how to put yourself into the absolute pinpoint conscious focus of attention where you can achieve personal excellence.